this Brahman is not so, not so, because the scripture negates all attributes. From the impossibility of otherwise explaining the non-transmigratory nature of the liberated soul, as long as there is a cause due to the negation of such causes in the state of liberation. There are a few very important ideas covered here. See, firstly, the Brahma Sutras are very direct, straight to the point. There is no explanation. There is a deep assumption that you trust the source. When you trust something completely, when you know you are being offered nothing but the truth, the ultimate truth, the form in which it comes to you is so simple, so direct, that it does not require more than a few lines. Now here, in these 3 lines, so much is covered. It is talking about the nature of Brahman, the entity which is devoid of all qualities except for its ability to create thoughts. It is a realm that is capable of generating thoughts as a mere shadow. The nature of that thing is so different, so magnificent, that its forgetfulness is our life. When for whatever reason it chooses to forget itself, it could be for the sake of amusement, it could be a distraction, it could be a momentary enjoyment. Whatever the reason might be, that much of forgetfulness is enough to create the whole world. The nature of that thing is so different, so beyond our descriptions, that the only way we can talk about it is in terms of negation. In just few lines, the Brahma Sutras are pointing directly to the ultimate nature of reality, and also the relationship between that and the individual, which is the complete story. It is one thing to say, well, there is this thing. If you want to know it, you can know it. Otherwise, go back to your business. Whatever you're doing, continue to do. It is an entirely different matter to say, not knowing this is to know nothing. It is not a matter of choice. Because what you are trying to know is not separate from you. What does that mean? In every scripture, this is mentioned. Sometimes, or rather, mostly, this personal connection to this ultimate reality is interpreted religiously. If it was not a personal connection, if it is just an objective reality sitting somewhere, and you had the choice whether to know it or not, there is no way for the world to be this religious. What is the most basic ingredient of religion? That it has something to do with you. It is about you. Without you and your liberation, without that being the ultimate objective, religion would lose all its personal connection. It would just be another business, another product. You can choose to engage with it, or you can ignore it completely. Why is it so hard to ignore the religious indoctrination that you are subjected to? Because right from the beginning, the language is very personal. Now, where does this come from? It comes from that ultimate reality not being separate from you. It is all about you. Everything is about you. All the scriptures are about you. All the paths are about you. Every echo, every sound, every murmur, every whisper in your mind, outside your mind, it's all about you. The only problem is you are stuck with something that you're not. Hence, you keep on negating all the most important conversations that are pointing to you. You keep on holding on to a certain idea of you. In the process, rejecting all that is about you, but it's not about that idea of you. You are only concerned about sustaining a mental construct called you. Why are you the central theme in all the scriptures? Because if the ignorance is removed, if the false attachment is removed, if the shadow is cleared, then what remains cannot be something other than you. Because if you are experiencing a non-shadowy, a non-negative, pure, absolutely pure, crystal clear you, how can that be separate from you? Because perception itself is a form of distortion. When you are experiencing the ultimate, there is no such thing as experience in between. It is only in human language that there is a word called experience. We apply that even to the ultimate experience. Otherwise, how can enlightenment be an experience? Because that implies you are still there in whatever limited form, and you are going through an experience, and that experience is that of the ultimate. You see the contradiction. It's like saying, I have this small cup. I want to experience the ocean. I want to know the ocean in all its depth, in all its varied intensity. But I want to do it using this cup. I don't want to let go of this cup. That's what an experience is. If you're longing for an experience, you are still there. The longing is still there. The experience is always limited because it is a relationship between you and what you're trying to experience. The ultimate experience happens when the impurity of perception disappears. There is just that thing that you're experiencing. It's because we have to say something about it, we need to use these words. It's the ultimate experience. It is a moment of liberation. It is a moment of transcendence. All these things make sense only in relationship to the limitation that is the body, that is the mind. When you're actually experiencing that ultimate, it won't be an experience at all. It would just be a clearing of the mind, the clearing of thoughts, clearing of all the desires, including the desire to become enlightened. When all the impurities are cleared, when there is no experiencing, when there is no experiencer, when there is just one thing, how can that one thing be something different from you? How can the aliveness of that thing be different from your aliveness? How can its consciousness be separate from your consciousness? You are the body, you are the mind, but you're also something more. You can be conscious without being conscious of anything. Just try it. Close your eyes for 1 second. Just be aware. Don't be aware of anything particular. You will see it's very easy. Just aware. You're not thinking about anything. You're not thinking about the body. You're not thinking about the mind. Just the presence. Something is here that is undeniable. In that moment, where was your body? Where was your mind? Where was the world? Nothing is there in that moment except for that presence called you. Because you cannot stay there in that moment, everything floods in. The moment you try to extend that 1 moment to 2 moments to 3 moments, everything floods in. Your mind, your thoughts, along with it the body, your neighbors, everything. And then you're confused. Because now you're in a busy marketplace of noises that are constantly trying to tell you who you are. You are silence, but you listen only to noise. That is why you don't connect with silence. You don't connect with stillness. That noise, that conversation is what you have become. Hence, you never hear something about you, the actual nature of your being, which is silence and stillness. You keep on hearing something about your mind, something about your body, something about what you're perceiving, which is a distortion by itself. In all the scriptures, this is the central theme, undeniable, that the ultimate realization is the realization of the self. Adi Shankara taught this as a method. He said, what you are trying to realize is not something other than you, is not something outside of you. In a way, you are already realized and you don't know it. That's the challenge. If you are an unenlightened being, in essence, in actuality, then it's so much easier to enlighten you. The problem is, if you are already enlightened, but you are vehemently refusing to accept it. As they say, it's easier to wake up someone who's asleep. But it's really hard to wake up someone who's pretending to be asleep. It's the same problem with the human mind. Keep you aside for a while. Because the moment you start thinking in terms of you, there is this other entity, the ego, which interferes with everything. Keep your ego aside for a while. Keep the you aside. Just look at your life as a mind body phenomenon. There is no you here. All your thoughts are being generated by the mind. The mind, it is not your mind. All the bodily desires are bodily desires. It's not your desire. You are not hungry. You don't want food. You don't want rest. It's the desire of the body. Together, they are playing this game called life. You are not even required. That is why life goes on no matter what. Whether you're happy, life goes on. Whether you're sad, it doesn't matter. Whether you're disappointed with things, it doesn't matter. Whether you're excited, it doesn't matter. You will continue to eat. You will continue to breathe. Because you are the least important thing. But somewhere, your ego has given you the impression that you are the doer of all these things. When in fact, you are sitting somewhere in the corner, far away. You're not even involved in the process. That is the reality of the phenomenon called your life. It is just happening. A tumbling. Nobody is doing the tumbling. Nobody has to do anything. You just have to push it from the top of the cliff. One act, one event, one moment of unconsciousness at the beginning, wherever that beginning is for your life, that set the rolling stone in motion. And after that, everything is just happening. Because unless you do something with this, you stop it, turn it around, and change the direction, it will continue to roll. This hill has no end. It just keeps on going. Death is just one more obstacle. It'll just jump over it. It'll continue to roll. Now keep yourself aside for a while and just look at this mind-body phenomenon. Now, what is the problem for this mind-body phenomenon to realize that it is not truth? It is not real. That's the only realization that is required. You don't have to realize the truth. You have to realize that you are false. The moment you realize that this mind-body phenomenon is an illusion, something breaks open. Now, the challenge is, how do you make this happen without I? Without the self? Because your self is anyways not involved. Your self wants to become enlightened. But your mind does not want to become enlightened. Your body does not want to become enlightened. They don't want to realize the ultimate nature because that means they have to cease to exist. That's their fear. Now, how do you deal with this? This is the challenge in enlightenment. It is not about struggling to realize the truth. It's about understanding the nature of this struggling. Who is struggling? I am already what I am. As Nisargadatta Maharaj said, I am that. You are that. Okay, accept it. I am that. But where am I? Why am I not able to feel that presence as my reality? Why do I keep forgetting it? 2 seconds before, I was told that I am that. 2 seconds after, I am lost somewhere else. I have forgotten all about that. I am this. Now, where is the disconnection? Why am I unable to be that? That's the challenge. If you leave the I aside, the self aside, the ego aside, you will see you have to introduce something to this phenomenon called the mind, called the body, that slowly negates them, that slowly removes them, that dissolves them. It cannot be done forcefully, because force is simply an offshoot of the mind, of the ego. The more forceful you are, the more you're feeding the ego. And that's what happens when you take a delicate, existential, spiritual process and turn it into something that has to be forcefully followed. It becomes religion. Force is what turns mysticism, spirituality into religion.